So, The Last of Us HBO episode 5 came out over a week ago, and I am just now getting around to doing my review of the episode. And I apologize for that, guys. I've just been busy. And now episode 6 comes out tomorrow, but I still wanted to get my review out of episode 5 before episode 6. So, when it comes to episode 5 of The Last of Us, I believe now, after seeing the episode, that episodes 5 and 3 are my two favorite episodes. I think they are the two best that we've gotten so far, and I feel like episode 5 is my favorite. I don't know if it's better than episode 3, but episode 5 is my favorite. And yeah, this episode had everything I wanted. The way they introduced Henry and Sam was really well done, and obviously the big change that we got for Henry and Sam, Sam, is that he's deaf in the show. In the game, he's not. He can actually speak, but in the show, he's deaf. So just the way that they were obviously doing sign language to communicate was awesome to see, and the relationship that we got from Ellie and Sam might have been my favorite part of the entire episode. I thought it was extremely well done. It was beautiful. And yeah, honestly, in my opinion, I feel like the way that they portrayed Henry and Sam and told their story in the show, I think they surpassed what Naughty Dog did in the game. Now, I've been saying this for each and every single episode so far, that the game makes the show better and the show makes the game better. They both complement each other so well. That's why I don't really like comparing them, because they just bounce off each other so well. And especially when it comes to the TV show, if The Last of Us game never existed, this show on its own would still stand on its own 2 feet, because it's just that well done. And then obviously for people that have played the game, or maybe who have never played the game and they watch the show and then they go and play the game, they'll be like, oh wow, this is so much better. And so yeah, and just whenever it showed Henry and Sam like watching Joel and Ellie whenever they got attacked by the hunters, and it showed their perspective, I was like, wow, this episode is phenomenal. And obviously The Last of Us is all about the characters, and one thing that The Last of Us HBO is doing different than the game slightly is they're making Joel, I guess you could use the word nice, like he's nicer, because when he first meets, or when Joel first really talks to Henry, he's kind of being mean to him, because he doesn't know who he is. And then when he finds out why Kathleen is after him, because Henry gave up Kathleen's brother to get medicine because Sam had leukemia, Joel understood that and he was sorry, So I feel like they're making Joel like he apologizes more in the show compared to the game. And yeah, obviously one of the best moments of the episode was whenever the infected poured out of the ground, because Henry was saying that the infected have been forced underground and they weren't allowed to come out for 15 years, so they were all buried down there. And so whenever that truck hit the building and it went into that sinkhole, and then you could hear all the infected, and from the trailer that we got, when it showed like the bloater and like 3 infected beside the bloater coming out of the ground, I thought that was going to be all. I literally thought it was going to be like a bloater and like 4 clickers, but there was literally hundreds of them that just shot up out of the ground instantly and started sprinting at the humans. And that blew my mind. That was absolutely terrifying. And then when we got the actual shot of the bloater, that was just badass, because we were getting it from Perry's perspective, and Perry had the absolute best death in the show so far, because he got killed by the bloater, and he got the death animation that, for those of us who have played the game, whenever the bloater, if it gets you and it spins you around and it rips your head in half, except for, in the game, the bloater rips your head in half, but in the show, the bloater just ripped Perry's head off. And it was just awesome, but at the same time, I felt kind of weird watching it, because it's Jeffrey Pierce and he's Tommy from the games. So it was kind of like watching Tommy get his head ripped off. So it kind of felt weird, but obviously I know he's playing a quote-unquote bad guy in the show. So that was an awesome death, an awesome way for him to go out. And also the death of Kathleen, because the way she went out, she was a complete asshole to Henry, saying that, it doesn't matter if Sam dies, kids die all the time, it doesn't really matter. And it's so awesome and ironic that the way that Kathleen dies is she gets killed by a kid clicker. That was just awesome. And obviously the ending of the episode is what sealed it for me as my favorite episode, because it's obviously heartbreaking and shocking in the game whenever Henry and Sam die, but when it happened in the show, oh man, it is so much more depressing and just it's actually really hard to watch. I watched it the first time and yeah, I did tear up and I was very sad, but then my second time watching it, I watched it with my fiance, and I don't know what it was, but maybe I was starting to reflect more, thinking like, okay, Sam's only 8 years old and he's already deaf and he suffered from cancer and now he's gotten bitten. Like, I was like, this is extremely messed up. This is like, he doesn't deserve that at all. So my second time watching it, I was absolutely heartbroken. It's very, very, very tough to watch. And, just how Ellie and Sam communicated with that little notepad, and it was pretty much word for word from the game, except for the big deviation. Right before Sam reveals that he's infected, he actually shows Ellie. In the game, they just talk, and then Ellie leaves, and then the camera pans down to Sam pulling up his pant leg, and there's the bite mark. But in the show, he actually pulls up his leg to show the bite mark, but he shows Ellie, so Ellie knows that he's infected, and she immediately is like, my blood is medicine, so she cuts her hand open to put her blood on Sam's wound to try and cure him, and so she goes to bed hoping that maybe that would have cured him. The next morning, Ellie wakes up and Sam is just facing the wall, just sitting there, and it didn't work. Ellie tried and she failed, and Sam is infected. And the one thing that, and I don't know how I didn't know this from literally playing the first game like 13 times, but apparently whenever you first get infected, like that first stage when you're a runner, it's actually the person still on the inside, and you can actually hear them whenever they're infected in the game, and they're like, please make this stop. So actually whenever Sam was infected and he started attacking Ellie, Sam was actually inside, and he was aware what he was doing, but he couldn't control it because the cordyceps obviously takes over your mind. So the fact knowing that Sam was still in there and he didn't want to attack Ellie, but his body just did it, and then him knowing that his brother killed him, it's just extremely depressing. And Henry's reaction to shooting his own brother is also, in my opinion, done better than the game. And Ellie's reaction to it, and Joel in the show, is just top-notch acting. And then obviously Henry does kill himself. And yeah, and one thing they don't show in the game that they show in the actual show is that Joel and Ellie bury Henry and Sam. And before Ellie and Joel walk off, Ellie puts that notepad that she and Sam used to communicate, and she put the words "I'm sorry" on it because she tried to save him, but it wasn't enough. And that's how the episode ends. And yeah, tomorrow is episode 6, and I will try my best to get a review out of that episode on Monday. And so yeah, guys, down below, let me know your thoughts on episode 5 of The Last of Us HBO. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed it or found it informative, drop it a like and hit the subscribe button by turning on the post notification bell so you don't miss my next upload. Until next time, guys, take care.